Oh boy. Is this working? This is working. Why can't I view this? Oh, wait a minute. Tavon, you got this. Well, I don't really. Hello. Oh my God, what a disaster. I should stick to just normal, crazy high production videos without any live element because obviously I'm a fool. Hello, Tavon, Steve, and Jan. I do see you. But here's the thing I'm trying to figure out. I had to put my old man glasses on here. I have to see if there's chats I need to follow in the Patreon page as well. That's what the instructions said. Just give me a second here. Okay. Do we have people? We do. We do. Oh my goodness, we have people. Steve, Rodrigo, Yuha, Brad, Woot. Yes, live is very hard. It's too hard for an old man like me. Clearly, this is not what you were supposed to see. This is my recording booth. It's a fine booth. It's a lovely booth. I love the booth. But, it's not what you were supposed to see. I've got a big high definition camera all set up in the anyway, so I guess this is what it is. Okay. Link from the link from the first Patreon post to the redo post if someone refreshes it. Is that what you're telling me to do, or is that what you did? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay, well, we're just gonna hope that this works. I mean, it obviously does. I see you guys here. So something has gone right, even if it's not exactly, what what I intended at all. Okay, well, you're here. I can see you. I'm gonna try and go back and forth between the Patreon page to see if anybody's chatting there because I don't actually know. Um, yeah, at least I have something going. Oh, there we go. Steve Young. Trevor is live, peeps. True, true. Although he doesn't feel like it at the moment. Oh, okay. So Tavon, you got the Patreon post notification, stumbled on the first vid, then check Patreon again. Okay, good. Um, so as you can tell, I'm totally new at this. So I'm probably doing everything wrong. I don't even really watch live streams, so I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. But I thought this would be a fun thing to try with you guys, and hopefully you're not too harsh in your criticisms of the old man who can't figure out how his computer works. Um, but yeah, I see some folks here now, so this is good. So, I guess, um thanks, Jan. You're doing fine. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so, we can put all of that, nonsense behind us. I'm gonna have to go back and, try and fix the posts and all that stuff. But thank you for joining me here on the first official Me, Myself, and I live chat. Um Yes, thank you, Brad. This is certainly a learning opportunity, certainly for me. So I wanted to, first of all, thank you guys for joining me on this mad ride for this little show. Um, I wasn't even going to do a Patreon, but a lot of you had suggested it. A lot of subscribers had suggested it. And oh, hi, Philip. The chat's here, but I think it's also on Patreon as well. I'm kind of looking at both windows. Oh, well, my pleasure. I have no problem hosting you. Thanks, Ethan and Rodrigo. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye on both windows. Anyway, I wasn't gonna do a Patreon at all, but some of the subscribers, probably some of you guys, said, "Hey, it'd be a good idea to help support the show." And I thought, really, you would just give money to support a show? And then I thought, well, wait a minute, people pay like money every month for Netflix and Hulu, and not that I'm comparing myself to Netflix or Hulu, but I just thought, well, I guess it kind of makes sense. My friend Gab, he always said today, the internet streaming, especially things like Twitch, that's the new TV service for people, for the really young people. And I think, yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. Anyway, it's been pretty successful so far, and like seriously, it warms the cockles of my heart to think that you guys are supporting the show as much as you do. It's great. Um, Entertainment is entertainment. Yeah, true enough. I'm gonna try and talk to you and respond to you at the same time, though that's gonna be a little schizophrenic probably, but we'll get through it. So, I just wanna give you a little, heads up on what the state of the show is right now. Um, so we're getting towards the end. On Kalabunki is making his way towards the lair of Thaugalos. I will be shooting that episode in the next couple days. So it will be ready for next Monday, as always. I'm also going to be shooting a few extra things. Especially once season 1 season 2 wraps up, I'm gonna be doing a show well, I already do a show called Drinking with DMs for the D10 patrons, but I'm also gonna do a show called, what do I call it? The Sage's Library or something, where I go through my RPG library and I, go over all the games that I've had experiences with, and it's like kind of a review show, but not really, it's just a little kinda like, "Here, this is my experience with this game, and maybe you wanna check it out," whatever. And then I've got a few other ideas as well for higher tiers for season 3. I might get into those later, but first, let's take a look at some of your questions. Okay, here we are. Here we are. Let's see. Um, Cal says the elf forest burning has no comparison in modern film or story. Yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it? As everything does in this in this show. That's the beauty of having everything happen completely randomly. I hate knowing what's going to happen when I go into it. So this whole experience of doing the show has just been so much fun because I come in, I sit down, and I'm like, I have no idea where this is going. So it's always a surprise to me as well. Uh, yeah, yeah. The Sages Library I think will be fun. But here's the thing: I actually started to shoot like the intro sequence a couple days ago, which is just basically some you know, video shots of my library, and I'll cut it together to make it look all cool. But, there's a very good chance I'll be relocating, in the next couple weeks, couple months, and of course, that's gonna be a big move. So I'm trying to create as much content now as I can so that as I'm in the process of relocating, I can actually still upload things, and so you guys still have things to look at. So it's gonna be very, very busy for me to try and bust out all this stuff. And then the really exciting thing is once I get to the new location, the plan is to build a bigger production studio where I can have like various sets, where I can just go in and record a bunch of stuff like season 3 of the show, um, the Sages Library things, drinking with GMs, all that stuff. I wanna keep all that in a much bigger space that I have more control. Because right now, this is my studio for voiceover. Obviously, as you can see, this is my booth. This is where I do all my animation work. Um, but the control room out here, is it's a good size, but it's not really big enough to accommodate everything I want it to accommodate, so I'm gonna try and figure out a way to build a bigger space, but anyway, I'm babbling. Let's have a look at what we have here. Okay, oh, that's a good question, Juho, I don't know, I'm probably pronouncing your name wrong, Juho, Yuho, I'm not sure. Do you plan to go back to Mythic at some point or trying out new solo systems? That is a awesome question. Uh, I'm not sure because I love Mythic. Mythic is very, very Mythic clicks with me, like, I completely get it. I know there's a lot more systems out there for, solo interpretations and oracles and stuff like that. I'm really interested in looking at them, but I suspect what is likely to happen for season 3 is that I will go back to Mythic for the oracles, for the solo stuff, but I'll use a completely different, RPG system to represent whatever happens in that game. So we'll see what happens there. Um Joe, that sounds awesome. Is that something you can use for voiceover work from home too? Yeah. So basically, because of the whole pandemic thing, we've all been working from our home studios. Luckily, I have one, and it's a professionally made booth. I spent a lot of money to make sure this was the real thing. But yeah, I try and do everything right on location here. This is actually in my home, like I have a separate building on the property where my production studio is. So in the next home, it's going to be a bigger space, although it may take some time to for me to build it to spec. So I've got some sort of transitional ideas in the meantime, but not to worry. I will still be producing stuff. It just won't look exactly the same in terms of like the backgrounds or any of that stuff that you've been used to seeing so far. There's a new version of Mythic coming out. Oh, interesting. Interesting. I'll have to keep my eyes open for that. Tavon says, I would love different series that I can watch simultaneously. I love seeing you do Ironsworn, but I also love Mythic and would love to see you do a D&D solo series. So those of you who've been watching my Drinking with DM series, I've been in this running critique of D&D 5e. Um, which is hilarious, and if you wanna check that out, you should go see Drinking with GMs because I get into it quite a bit with my friend Jared. Um, I suspect at some point I've got this other idea for, like, a one-off, maybe, like, a mini-series thing, which I think you guys will love. I love the idea. I've talked to some of my friends about it, and I'm like, "I think I wanna do this thing," and they're like, "Oh my god, that's so good." So I'm probably going to do that. Well, I'm definitely going to do that. But I don't know what system to use for that because the focus of that little mini-series is not gonna be the actual game system. It's gonna be more on the oracles. It's gonna be more on the interpretation of the charts and things like that. But a friend of mine said, Sebastian, he said, "You know, D&D is the big elephant in the room, and I know you're hesitant to use it, but you should really use it because everybody plays it." I'm like, "I know, but I don't wanna use D&D, but I just might. I might actually use D&D 5e for this little mini series, but we'll see what happens." For the record, I have nothing against D&D 5e. It's a perfectly acceptable system, and for what it sets out to do, it does it very, very, very well. Just not entirely my cup of tea, but okay, what else we got here? Oh, Steve, you're working on one? You're working on like a solo system? That would be interesting to see. You'll have to send it to me when you have a prototype ready. Oh, this is good. Ethan says, "Are you gonna stay in the fantasy genre, or will you jump into new genres another season?" So, another good question. Eventually, the genres will expand, but for now, I'm not quite finished with the stories of the characters that have been introduced throughout the course of this show. I won't say any more than that. Other than that, season 3 will still very much still be fantasy, but perhaps eventually, or maybe even concurrently, we'll see how much time I have. That would be awesome. To do this full time would be awesome, but I don't have time to do it. But I'd love to do like a sci-fi thing. I would love to do like a Call of Cthulhu thing, like a horror thing. I'm kind of running a bit of a Delta Green game on and off for some friends of mine back home right now online, and they dig it and I dig it. I wonder how that would look as a completely like a solo RPG thing with the random tables. I don't know if it'd work, but it might be worth exploring. So we'll see about that. Um, all right, where are we here? Where are we here? And Brad, yeah, separate building on the property. Sheds have been popular this last year. Well, this is a little more fancy than a shed, I have to say, just a bit. Where are we here? Oh yeah. So Jen, I know I come down hard on D&D sometimes, but it's all in jest. D&D, obviously, I started with that way back in the when the earth was cooling. I started with it. We all did, those old folks like us, because it was the one that started the whole ball rolling. It's just that my preferences, especially when I'm running a game for my friends, my preferences have always tended to skew to either sort of horror fantasy, which is like Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay First Edition, like D&D meets Call of Cthulhu, uh, or really gritty. I don't like the word realistic because, there's always magic and stuff involved, but, preserving a sense of verisimilitude, games like, the core system of RuneQuest. I'm not talking the magic system because RuneQuest, especially in the early days, RuneQuest assumed that everybody had folk magic, and I always just said, "No, no, 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 no. Low magic, low fantasy, high gritty." So games like Harnmaster, which I know probably a lot of you have never even heard of, um, games like that. I've always been attracted to games like that. That's why, like, when I first read Game of Thrones, when the first book came out, I was like, "Oh, yeah, this was written for me, for sure." Um, but anyway, nothing wrong with D&D. It's a perfectly fine game, and I still play it. If someone says to me here's the thing, if somebody says to me, "I'm gonna run this D&D 5e game," I'm not gonna be, "Oh, please," because I'm gonna have fun. Of course, I'm gonna have fun. I mean, if the GM's good and if the players are good. But I've rarely run into a situation, I've been lucky, where I haven't had fun. I'm not so snooty that I'm gonna turn down the opportunity to play in a game. Alright, where are we here? Pathfinder, absolutely not. I will not use Pathfinder. I ran a D&D 3.5 campaign back in the day. Fun up until the point where it became dungeons and spreadsheets, where you had to keep track of every round and every effect, and I was just like by the time the players got to, like, I think 7th level was the sweet spot, and I think after that in D&D 3.5, they got up to 11th level before the campaign ended, and it was interminable. It was like, we can't keep track of all this." So, since Pathfinder is just basically a reskin of 3.5, I don't think I'll be, jumping on board with that one. Oh, RK, would you consider to invite a guest or friends to your show? Yeah. Part of the reason why I like doing the drinking with DMs thing is because I get a chance to bring my friends, my player community on board the show, which I think is great. And in terms of actually having other players in the show, me, myself, and I, the main show will always be just me, myself and I. But these kind of spin-off miniseries things I'm going to do will involve other players as well. But you will have to wait and see how that whole works out. What else? Where else are we? Tantalizing hints. Oh, I'm way behind here. I'm way behind. Where are we? Oh, where did the Kalapunki name come from? It is Scandinavia. I think it's Finnish, and I think it came from the Perilous Wilds book. The Perilous Wilds book is a supplement that I used in season 1, and in the back of the book, there was a list of names that you don't often find, like, I think Finnish, and there was an African country, there was just names that, because especially when I was starting to play, most of the names were all, English, French, this kind of European thing. So I thought I saw this Finnish name, I was like, "Oh, that's cool, that's kinda neat." So that's where that comes from. Um where are we here? Here. Uh, Rodrigo, the game I played after D&D was Warhammer. There was no going back. For sure, man. I totally get it. Warhammer first edition, when I discovered it in '87, I fell in love immediately. I just fell in love. It was everything I wanted the game to be. It was horror fantasy. It was Renaissance instead of medieval. It was set in this twisted version of Germany at the the Holy Roman Empire period, the Holy Roller Empire. Just fell in love with it for sure. Where are we? Yeah, Warhammer. I don't know if I do Warhammer as a solo thing. I think the thing about doing the solo thing that I've found already, even only having done like 2 seasons of it, is that what I'm doing is, yes, I'm playing a game, but it's also very much a show. So I have to make sure that the show is fun to watch. And if I use a system that has too many bells and whistles, too many gears going at the same time, then the show could devolve into watching me figure out the system as we go. And I'm not saying that Warhammer is particularly complicated, because it's not. But I was, when I think about, like, Hornmaster, for example, I would love to do a solo Hornmaster, but I couldn't shoot it. It would be unwatchable because the rules, as much as I love them, are they would not translate to a show, I don't think. I mean, maybe, but I doubt it. So Warhammer, I don't know. There's something about that makes me go, I don't think it's quite right, but who knows? I might change my mind. Uh Plans for Starforge, there are some people that have asked me about that. Again, at some point, I think when I do kinda switch up genres, I'll probably check it out. Um, I mean, Sean's a great designer, so, of course, I have interest in seeing, what he has for the sci-fi thing. Yeah, Harnmaster is, an old game. It was, designed by, uh, N. Robin Crosby, who was a Brit who moved to Vancouver, Canada, where I lived for 15 years. He died, I think, just shortly after I moved there. But it was written originally way back, like early '80s. I want to say '82, maybe. And I remember seeing it at Dragon magazine when I was a kid, and I remember seeing the ads for it, and it's hard to explain. It's very much a medieval England simulation. Like, unapologetically, this is a medieval England simulation. And when I was young, I didn't understand the world because it was a medieval simulation with the feudal system very much in play, and I was coming from D&D at the time where I was like, "Well, I wanna play a barbarian," and it's like, "Well, you don't really, doesn't quite work in that system." So, when I was a kid, I didn't get it. It just washed over me. But years and years and years later, sometime around 2009, I wanna say, something caused me to come back to it, and suddenly a light bulb went off where I looked at the infinite possibilities for adventure within that setting, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact I was really big into George R. R. Martin at the time, and it just worked. It was like, "Oh, this is like how I can run Game of Thrones, but my own version of it," and that's pretty much what happened. The system itself is a simulationist game. We're talking hit locations as detailed as finger. We're talking, you don't there's no hit points. You take individual wounds. You can die of infection if you don't get your wounds treated. It sounds really brutal, and it is, and I love it. It's my favorite game of all time. I'll probably do some sort of supplemental series or something on it. In fact, I know with the Sage's Library, I will get to Hardmaster, so you will get a chance to get my thoughts on it for sure. All right, where are we? Don't want to get too far behind here. Glorantha. RuneQuest mentioned, "What is your take on Glorantha?" I never got into Glorantha. When I started with RuneQuest, it was with RuneQuest 3, and that was with their Viking supplement, their Mythic Scandinavia supplement. So Glorantha was always a mystery to me. I was like, "I don't get it. It's Bronze Age, you like Greek heroes, I guess." And I don't know, it didn't speak to me. So I know really nothing about Glorantha. Where are we here? Solo LARP. No, I will not be doing any solo LARPs, Craig. I will not be doing solo LARPs. Where are we here? Dwayne says, "What's the most annoying thing the game master does when you're playing solo games?" You mean what's the most annoying thing I do to myself? When you're the game master in a solo game, what's the most annoying thing to play? Okay, are you taking the piss? I think you're taking the piss. Oh, interesting, Brad. This is funny. How are you feeling about the whole Me, Myself, and I franchise? So I don't know if I'd go so far as to call it a franchise, but I'll accept the compliment. I'm thinking of the Critical Role thing where it starts with little expectations and blows up into a life of its own. Those guys, Matt and the team on Critical Role, have really they opened a can of worms that they had no idea what they were doing. I remember when I first met Matt. It was when I first moved to LA. It was back in 2013, I think. And he had just started it at that time, and they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna play D&D and maybe shoot it and put it on the YouTubes." And I was like, "Oh, who would wanna watch that?" They've done very well. I should be so lucky to have a 100th of the success that they've had, but we shall see. As you guys know, Critical Role has a big, broad base because they're voice actors, and they're entertaining, and they play D&D, which is the big game that has become so popular. I think a lot in a lot of ways because of their show, probably. Um, but what we do is a niche. This show is a niche of a niche of a niche. A lot of people don't even know that solo role playing is a thing. I didn't when I started the show. I thought I knew it existed, but I didn't really use it as anything other than just a like when I first discovered Mythic, for me, Mythic was just a way to come up with interesting adventure ideas and to plot out adventures or to use in play to determine what happens when the players decided to do a thing. And I was like, I don't know, let's see what happens. And I roll it. But the idea of actually playing by myself didn't really come into it. So when I started the show, I just thought, well, this will be a clever thing that no one's ever done before, and well, imagine my surprise that there was a whole bunch of you folks out there who'd been doing it. So, the point is, it's pretty niche. I don't know what kind of appeal it would have to a broader audience. I hope it does. Certainly, I shoot it the way I do to try and make it appealing to a broader audience. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here. All right. Where are we? Boy, there's so much stuff. I really appreciate this, guys. This is I didn't think any of you would show up. So I thought, oh, there'll be like 3 people. We'll just have a little chat. Okay. Oh, Brad says, will the Sage's library also include a look at your minis collection? That's funny. I'd also like to see your storage for them. Well, if you've ever seen an IKEA shelf, that's my storage for my minis at the moment. I just took everything and put it on a big IKEA set of, the Billy bookcases, the Billy bookcases. When I move, uh it will be different, but I don't know what that's gonna look like yet. But yes, at some point, I will show you my mini collection. My mini collection, which is about to become stupidly bigger because I bought into that Reaper thing, and now I've got like 800 miniatures on its way right now. So I have nowhere to put them. I have nowhere to put them. Oh my god. Uh, oh, that's funny. Dwayne says, I imagine Trevor antagonizing himself a la Andy Serkis's Gollum Smeagol with all those camera cuts. That's kind of what it feels like sometimes, for sure. Um, Gian says, "Are you okay with questions about you personally?" "Sure, and if I'm not, I just won't answer 'em." All right, where are we? Oh, Tigger Plays says, "Harn is my favorite setting. Lothra Foul Spawner for the win." Thank you. Thank you for knowing what I'm talking about. Okay. Where are we here? I can't keep up. I can't keep up. So many. So many, so many. Oh, okay, Joe. Maybe not taking the piss. One feature of solo players is the GM is harder on the players than they would be in multiplayer. So that's interesting because that's exactly what Sean said to me when I did my interview with him on the 6th episode of my supplemental series before I started season 2, is he sort of said, "Now remember, uh, uh, sort of a rookie mistake when people, especially in Ironsworn play, is that they're really hard on their characters, so be careful because the system's deadly enough as it is." And I'm glad he said that because I do tend to be pretty hard on the characters. And I know, especially over the past couple of episodes, Arn has done really well. But if you go back and look at season one, Simon, well, I think it took him 20 episodes before he started to really become, something pretty competent. So yeah, you do have to be careful with the solo stuff that you don't just wind up killing your whole party because you're being, well, that's just the way it is. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's the way you roll, then cool. But I'm doing a show, so I would hate to kill off my whole cast in the first episode. All right. All right. Where are we here? Oh, Tavon says, uh, Reddit, the solo role playing Reddit uses your show as the example. It helps so much. Well, that's good. That's very nice to hear. I do know that there's a lot of talk on the solo uh, uh, forums and stuff about the show, which is great. Um, Also, the comments have been like universally positive, which I got to tell you, when I started doing a YouTube show, I was prepared for the trolls. I was like, here they come, here they come. But I don't think I've had a single one. There was one fella who wrote a big long explanation as to why he hated the ending of season one. And his arguments were perfectly valid. I disagreed with them, but I was like, okay, well, thanks for telling me, you know? But that's fine if people have legitimate criticisms. I mean, a lot of the times criticisms come down to, "Well, I would have done it differently." Well, okay, well, you're allowed to, it's your game, but this is mine, and that's how it turned out, so what are you gonna do? But, yeah, I haven't had any trolls so far, which, I'm very surprised by. That's not an invitation, by the way, internet. That is not an invitation. Oh, what have I said? This is why I don't do live stuff. Alright, let's see here. So many. Reaper Madness, yeah, no kidding. Um, Take Your Place says, Falcon Winter Soldier runs you a close second, to best show of the week. That's funny. Oh, Hip News 2 says, I was wondering, do you know about Scarlet Heroes from Kevin Crawford? If so, what do you think about its solo rules? I know of its existence, but I've never actually looked at it, so I don't know about much about it. I love Kevin Crawford's work. I especially love um, his tools for the DM in between sessions to advance the world. So cool, so cool. I ran a Stars Without Number game last year for my guys back in Edmonton, and that was the funnest part for me, was in between sessions, seeing what all the factions are doing. And I will be tapping into something like that in the future on this show, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Um, oh, Philip says it's a. Are you talking about my T-shirt? This is this is from the old first edition player's handbook. This is a paladin in hell. This paladin right there, he was the inspiration for my very first D&D character ever, way back in 1979 or 80 or whenever it was. I saw the picture and I was like, that guy, I want to be that guy. So, and then I found somebody who made shirts out of the pictures. So I was like, well, I clearly must have it. And the thing is, if I had been broadcasting from my chair, where I was supposed to be, you wouldn't even see the shirt. So look at that. Happy coincidence. Where are we here? Uh, 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 um, Yeah, Jan, I think most of the RP and miniature channels are of like mind, very much positive people. I've found that too. Like, what an incredible community of just really friendly, enthusiastic, optimistic folks. It's tremendous. It's tremendous. I really love it. Um, I can't wait actually to start really meeting some of these. Like, I'd love to meet the Black Magic Craft guy, and I'd love to meet Professor Dungeon Master from Dungeon Craft, and I'd love to have conversations with these folks 'cause I respect them, or Seth Skorkowski, I think he's great. I think all these people are great. I'd love to swap stories with them one day or maybe do an interview. Who knows? Um, Steve Young, my first solo game, my character went to jail for 20 years. Yeah, it can happen. Yeah, it can happen. All right. Rodrigo, has playing solo changed how you GM traditional tables? Um Yeah. Excuse me. It has. I've always liked the idea of, as I said at the beginning, I don't like to know how anything ends. So I love the idea of, um, random things happening, and you can totally do that at the table when you're running a game. I have a copy of Mythic next to me when I'm running a lot of games, because if the players do something and I just don't know what's gonna happen, I do the old rolls and the interpretation, and away we go, and the players really feel like there's a living, breathing world that way, because they know that the world isn't just coming from my arbitrary decisions as a game master. I mean, they are, but they're being inspired by a randomness, which sort of makes them feel unsafe, which is what you want when you're playing a game, because the whole point is to be facing obstacles and challenges. And if your characters feel safe, then the GM's doing it wrong. All right. Stars Without Number solo would be so good. Yeah. Yeah, Ethan, I agree. It's also a very easy system to do because it's an OSR thing. It's based on the old D20 system, so it'd be very simple to do. Jan, how much of an audio video nerd are you? Well, as we saw from the disastrous rollout of this live chat, obviously not much of one. Uh, I I learned how to edit. Well, I shouldn't say I learned how to edit. I was familiar with editing software from years and years of just being in the business, but I really, really dived into Final Cut Pro when I started this show in season 1 for obvious reasons, and it was a huge undertaking. I was like, "Oh boy, I have to learn how to shoot, and I have to learn how to, like, white balance, and I have to learn how to edit and do sound design and all that stuff." So it was a big curve, but it seemed to turn out okay. All right. Brad S says, "I'm pretty excited about all the stuff you've got coming." Yeah, me too. I just hope I have time to be able to do all of it in a timely manner, but, not to worry, I will be putting out stuff. I know that there was a big hiatus for those of you who are watching since season 1, there was a big hiatus between season 1 and season 2, there was lots of reasons for that. Um, but I'm gonna try not to do that again. I'm gonna try and have at least something coming out, even in the midst of this big move I'm doing. So we'll see what happens. Oh yeah, the chair, the Tervor. Yeah, I kind of lost the E on this. This was given to me when I did a show called Big Time Movie for Nickelodeon. I played the bad guy and they gave me my chair, but the E has fallen off, so now I'm just all right. All right. Yeah, Joe. Seth is awesome. Seth Score. Hello, internet. Seth Skorkowski here. I think he's awesome. All right. Yeah. Hypnos. I intend to very much look into the faction system that Stars Without Number gives at some point. And I think there's one in Worlds Without Number too, but I haven't picked that one up yet. That's on order. Okay. Craig Malloy, when using Mythic in your face-to-face games, do you make it really clear when Mythic is in charge? Do you walk through the rules and Oracle results? Excellent question. The answer is no, because I don't want the players to be able to tell. I don't want them to be removed from their immersive experience by watching the GM roll a bunch of dice and figure things out. Now, sometimes that's inevitable. Sometimes that does happen. I ran a Forbidden Lands game for my guys actually in Vancouver and Edmonton at the same time. It was a real West Marches style game. This was just a couple years back. And that I specifically said to them, okay, just so you know, I don't know anything about what's in the next hex. So you guys, when you show up, it's totally random. And that's fine, but I think that they felt like, "Oh, well, the GM doesn't really know what's out there, so it doesn't feel like we're exploring a world that's already existing. We're just sort of exploring something that just pops into existence." It's like Schrodinger's setting, which it's not bad, it's just that a lot of them felt kind of the same way I do. Like, I want to feel like the world is living and breathing, and I wanna feel like the GM knows what he or she is doing. We know they can't know everything. They're just people. But there's this illusion we like to have. Like, well, actually, no, the GM, we're in good hands here. But anyway. Oh boy, where are we? Ticker plays. I'm curious, is the sound effects and music a holdover from the day job, or did you get it for the cast? Well, James Arnold Taylor, who is a fellow voice actor, he has a company that helps produce this show. And through his company, I license the vast majority of my music through a site called Digital Juice, and they have wonderful, wonderful stuff. So James has basically allowed me to use that library, which is fantastic. Digital Juice has great stuff. But also I wanted original music for season 2, so, I reached out to a young composer here, again through James, here in LA, and, he just nailed it. Like, I told him, "This is kind of the kind of themes I want," and he just nailed it. All of his credit information is at the end of every episode because I wanted to make sure that he got, credit. Just really good stuff. But in terms of the production of it, I mean, I've been doing kind of production-based stuff my whole life, so it just kinda comes a little naturally to me, I guess. Um, anyway, Brad, was voice acting a happy coincidence or was it a dream? That I will talk about on another stream, I think. Maybe I'll do something specific about voice acting. But for now, we'll keep it to game related stuff. Also, Brad asked, do you get a chance to play computer RPGs? Any favorites? Yeah. I try not to waste my whole life on them, but it's pretty hard when you've got things like The Witcher 3 and when you've got things like, what's the one I'm thinking of? Elder Scrolls. What's the one? Norse. Like, Skyrim, which is hilarious because that's where Arn's voice comes from. You know, somebody asked me, "What is that accent you're doing for Arn?" It's no accent. It's the Skyrim accent. It's just something that vaguely sounds like it might be from somewhere in Scandinavia, but it doesn't exist on Earth. All right. So many questions. I don't know if I'll be able to get to all of these today, guys. So, oh my goodness. Rodrigo, have you looked into Mithras RuneQuest 6? Yes, I ran it for a while, and a buddy of mine is running a Mithras campaign right now, which I'm playing in, and I love it. It's great fun. Um, Craig, what's your contingency plan for a TPK? I don't have one. If all the players die, then I see what the dice say. I have a vague notion, like if Arn was to die in the next episode or two, I have a vague idea of what might happen because the story will continue even if he's dead. Um, but we'll see. I don't know. I don't really have one. I don't want to have any plans. I just want to see what the dice does. Okay. Yeah, Brad says the production quality of the final product is great. Thank you very much. I assume it takes a lot of work. Oh, my friend, you have no idea. Yes, it takes a tremendous amount of work to do each episode, but I do love it, and if you love it, then it makes it all worth it. Okay. Um, yeah, Steve Young, the more experience you have at GMing, the better you become at improvising as you have a pool of knowledge to pull from. Yeah, for sure. It's like anything, right? You got to spend 10,000 hours on it to become an expert. And it's the same thing with GMing. Um, it's a skill you gotta practice and hone, you know? Where are we? Juho says, "I rolled from the original Mythic, Game Master emulator. What happens on this chat next? Praise magic. What happens?" Well, I guess that would depend on the context, wouldn't it? You're trying to put me on the spot? Trying to test my ability? No, I won't rise to the challenge. I won't take your bait, sir. Okay, yes. You talked about Warhammer during one of the Drinking with DMs. Did you read Zweihander? Yes, I own Zweihander. Um, I own virtually anything I see in terms of RPGs. I see it, I go, "Oh, that's pretty and shiny," and then I buy it because I have a problem. So, I really don't expect to play the vast majority of the games that I own. I would love to, but, adult life and, career and, all that kinda stuff. I do have Zweihander. I never delved deeply into it. Um, I love the fact that he was trying to create a clone of first edition, and that was when I think that came out around when 3rd edition was happening of Warhammer, but I could be wrong about that. 3rd edition, a lot of people had problems with it. I ran it for a while. I thought it was fun. Uh, a lot of people said, "Oh, well, it's not really an RPG." Well, I don't know. I think it was. It just had a lot of board gamey elements. Really tough to do, like, it's really tough if you're running a Warhammer 3 game and you're playing at a friend's house, well, as a GM, you gotta pack up a bunch of stuff just to play the game, but I didn't hate it. And you know what? Honestly, I can't think of well, no, I can't think of a single game that I hate, I suppose, but they're very rare. I No, I take that back. I don't think there's any RPG I've ever played where I hate that. That was terrible. There's things that have been not to my liking. There's things that I thought were kinda, maybe untested or just didn't work for my taste, but I don't think I've ever actually hated anything. Anyways, Zweihander, um, I didn't get much past the core mechanic. It didn't really grab me for some reason. I'm always willing to go back and have another look, but, I don't know a great deal about it. Okay. RK, would you consider to create your own world to play in using different systems? That was kind of what I was doing in season 1 with, Simon. As he explored the world evolved and we discovered more of it. So I would like to go back to that world, and I would like to discover more of it as well, and I would like to determine, like, what are the powers, what are the factions? We've already learned a lot about it, right? We've learned a lot of the gods, and we've learned about some of the local polities and things like the city of Chiton and stuff like that. But yeah, I would like to at some point too. I might consider actually opening it up to you guys to help me develop the world as we go. We shall we shall see how that goes. Brad, speaking of buying more than you can handle, I'm already drowning in systems and random tables from Drive Through RPG. Me too, but at least if you're buying the PDFs, it doesn't take up any physical space on your shelf, so that's okay. And by the way, don't forget that I am an RPG, or sorry, a Drive Through RPG affiliate. So if you're going to buy stuff that I've used or I'm interested in talking about on the show, there's probably a link underneath my website. So if you buy it through my site, I get a little taste, a little kickback, and it doesn't cost you anything more. So anyway, it's just yet another way to support the show if you can. So thanks to all of you who have already done that. RPG books, there's so many Brads here. I don't know if I just keep responding to the same one. RPG books, digital or dead trees. I'm a dead tree guy. I love a good book. I love to crack open a book and, well, not crack open the book and break the spine. That's heresy. But I love the smell of the glue. I love the bind. To this day, I can go back to my first edition player's handbook or DMG or monster manual, and I can open it and I smell 1980 again. It's just alive. Olfactory senses for me are the most powerful and vivid, imagination stirring things. So yeah, I love a good book. PDFs are very handy, but the idea of flipping quickly through a book, there's nothing quite like that for me. Okie dokie. Is season three, Jan? Is season three going to be Ghostbusters? Yeah, clearly that's what we're doing. Ghostbusters. Who you gonna call? Who you going to call? Says Arn. I've got a new job. All right. Are there any other RPGs? Says Kuya Mike Cuts. Are there any other RPG podcasts or solo RPG shows you recommend? I listened a lot to Fear the Boot, a lot over the years. I think they're still running their show. I haven't listened to them in a while, but they were great. Really love those guys. They're in Missouri, Kansas City. Is that where they are? I can't remember, but yeah, they were great. I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube. Like I said, Seth is great. The Dungeon Craft is great. DM Scotty, especially like the terrain stuff. The Train Tutor, Mel, the Train Tutor in England, he's great. Depending what you're looking for. Oh boy, too many, too many. Rodrigo, do you prefer the GM role or the player role? That's a tough question to answer. I've been, um, I think in every group, you find there's at least one guy who's like the GM. He's always the GM, right? What do they call that? GM syndrome or GM fatigue? Or anyway, there's some term that people have used. I was certainly one of those. I wasn't the only one. My friend Ross was the other GM. He ran Rollmaster. He ran a 20-year long Rollmaster campaign, by the way. Mwah. Magnificent. Um, but I'm always kind of considered the guy that's always the GM. And that is because I'm always looking at new systems, and I'm always teaching my guys new systems, and luckily, my player base back in Edmonton, they are very open to new games, even though they get frustrated with me constantly changing it up, but they're also excellent playtesters because they have such a great handle on RPG rule sets that they're able to immediately parse how this thing works and, make it sing, so I'm lucky that way. So I love to jam for them, but at the same time, there's nothing like being a player too, you know? Um that's a tough question. I don't know. I love it. I love it all. The Forever GM, that's it. Thank you, Craig. Yeah, the Forever GM. Um, all right. Where I should probably check the other window because I haven't ever. So many people are talking on that. That would be terrible. Oh, and sure they are. Okay. Let's see if I missed anything here. Uh, yes. Shane asks, have we covered which system you're planning to use next? No, we've not, because I haven't made up my mind yet. There's a couple in the running. I don't want to say what they are. I want it to be a surprise, but there's a couple in the running. A couple of companies have reached out to me to perhaps sponsor on some level the next season. So we'll see what happens with that. That would be cool. Yeah, Brad says 20-year campaign. Man, I was in a 2-year campaign. I thought that was something. Well, When you've been at it for as long as I have, 20 years goes by pretty quickly. Yeah, that was something. I should point out as well that that 20-year campaign was actually 2 different campaigns, basically part 1 and part 2. The first campaign happened over the course of, I wanna say a year, maybe 2 years. The second campaign was 18 years. And that's because we were all getting older, we were leaving university, we were going into our lives, so, I moved away from Edmonton in '98, so, but I still played, not remotely, but I would fly back quite a bit to play, but they were only playing, like, once every 6 months sometimes, so it sounds maybe a little more magnificent than it is. That certainly was not once every week. That would be something. But I have friends, oh boy, I have old friends of mine that have been running this game called the World of Afgard, f I think pretty much at least twice a month since the mid '80s. Like, I just talked to them, briefly. Bruce was the one of the GMs. There was 2 GMs in the day, which was really cool. They kinda, tag teamed with really, really cool stuff. Um, but I got a hold of him, and he sent me a link to their session. I was like, "You're still playing? It's 2021 and you're still playing? That's amazing." Amazing. Oh, Brad's in Calgary. Oh. Well, I'm not supposed to like you now as an Edmontonian. We'll give it a pass. I haven't been an Edmontonian since 1998, so it doesn't really matter to me. Steve's in Blackpool. Oh, very nice. I know that's not the accent, but, whatever. What are you gonna do? Cool. Well, you know what, guys? Have we got I don't think we're quite at an hour yet, are we? No, we're at 46 minutes. Oh, there it is, says right there. I'm gonna have to sign off here fairly soon, but this was pretty good. Thank you so much for coming on board and saying hello. We're gonna do more of these. The next one, I think I'm gonna do it right after the next episode drops. So not this coming Monday. I think this coming Monday, yeah, not this coming Monday, but the next coming Monday. Anyway, I'll be announcing it. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have a live stream, hopefully set up a little better than the last one was, or than this one was. That happens at like, so if the episode drops at 1 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific, it'll be at 2 o'clock um, Pacific as well, which kind of screws up some of you in Europe. I know that's pretty late, but I wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity for people in different time zones to come jump on board. But we'll see what happens. I will make an announcement. Anyway, thank you so much. This was actually really fun. My apologies for the sloppy beginning. I'm technically, uh, you know, utterly incompetent when it comes to, the internet and live stuff, so, anyway, yes, thank you very much, guys, that was super cool, and, we'll, talk to you next time here on Me, Myself, and I live chat. Okay, bye.